My name is Ryan Brown. I serve at Graceland as one of your pastors. And our vision at Graceland is to put Jesus first in our lives for our neighbors. Today, I've got Ben McLain, our campus pastor at our Memphis campus, and Ben Least, his neighbor. And I want to introduce you to this Jesus first story. Ben, why don't you get us started today? Tell me about how you met this guy right here.
Yeah, so met Ben, also Ben. He's Bennett, I'm Benjamin. But we met probably 7 years ago, I think, when we moved from Louisville, Kentucky over to this side of the river to Jeffersonville. And they are our neighbors directly across the street. And so it started just with small invitations, but then grew into, bigger conversations, longer conversations, and even touched on some deeper topics. As we developed a relationship, he felt more comfortable with me, I felt comfortable with him. And so those little yard conversations turned into, hey, why don't you guys come to the house and sit down and have a meal, come over, hang out in the backyard, and really began to develop longer conversations around Jesus and church and, how all that kind of connected to his life.
All campuses came together, had a night of worship. Talk to me about how you approached Ben with night of worship.
They had been coming to Graceland Memphis for several months now, really since launch. And so Night of Worship was coming up, and I was excited about it, and I kind of just mentioned to Ben in passing, hey, are you guys going to try to make Night of Worship on Friday night? He said, yeah, absolutely. And so really it was just an invitation. It was, say, hey, why don't you come join us with Night of Worship?
At first I was just like, it's going to be a regular, night at Graceland, and as the presentation went on at Night of Worship, I just got, way overwhelmed with feelings, and I was like, I asked my wife, I was like, why am I feeling the way I'm feeling? I felt a heavy burden. I mean, it was like a weight that I couldn't handle, and I was like, I need, Ben, what's happening? Why am I feeling the way I'm feeling? I explained, exactly the way that I was feeling, and Ben said, he said, you have a God-sized hole in your heart. He said that only God can fill. And, I said a little bit of, please help me. I can't handle it on my own. So, Ben said, he said that's a start. So we prayed together and asked for God's help.
Yeah. So Ben, talk to me now about what your relationship with Ben has looked like over the past couple of weeks since he gave his life to Christ.
Immediate change in Ben. I was so thrilled to be able to lead him to the Lord. He prayed the prayer, and he got done praying, and he was like, I don't know if that was the right thing to say. And I was like, Ben, that was the perfect thing to say, because what he said is, I can't do it. I need you, Jesus.
Just before, like I said, I thought I had everything, just figured out, and everything was going to be great. And now it's, seeing a whole new light.
Just as we think about what it is to be a neighbor, and over the 7 years, one of the things that really stood out to me and really made an impact was several years ago, I was sick, really sick, and Ben, unprompted, came over and cut my grass. And didn't ask him to. It was a simple thing. He did it. Didn't even really say anything about it. He just did it and then went back over to his home. And it really impacted me. And I thought, man, what a good neighbor. And then maybe even a great neighbor, because they truly are good neighbors. But even good and great neighbors don't mean that they're saved neighbors. And so being intentional about having those conversations about Jesus. So be intentional, be vulnerable to your neighbors, open up, walk across the street. You never know who you might meet. Guys like this, and I'm so thankful that God crossed our paths. And man, life-changing for both of us, truly.